What's up guys, Brad here from Piney Grove, and today's video is going to be a short video and an update on my tractor toolbox. So a few months ago I did a video on the perfect tractor toolbox, or at least my quest for that unicorn out there, and what I was looking for was a toolbox that fit right here in this area behind the seat up high here where the factory toolbox is, but I didn't want it attached to this metal bar right here because the linkage on my 3-point hitch, the top link here, when I'm coming off a trailer with a brush hog, would hit this and then hit the toolbox. So on previous L-series tractors that I've had, I've put a bigger toolbox right there. I've mounted it to that bar, and that's exactly what happens. That top link hits it and it bends the toolbox, it bends this bar, and this bar is actually bent from my post hole auger because that's a whole different setup. But I was looking for a toolbox in this location. I didn't want it up here. I didn't want it forward of the operator station. I didn't want it here on the side. And in that video that I'll link above me here, I talked about all of those things, and I thought I found the perfect tractor toolbox. So this is the updated version of that, and I haven't tightened it down yet. But what I had was a BXpanded or a BXpanded toolbox, and it fit right here. It was perfect. I've loved it for the months that it's been there. But in the end of that video, you'll actually see that when I put the final torque on the bolts, that I felt like it was a little flimsy this way. And we use our tractor a lot out here at Piney Grove. We go up and down the pond banks. We do a lot of brush hogging. So tractors don't have suspensions. They're normally rough riding anyway, but we tend to put our tractor in what I feel are rougher conditions than maybe the general homeowner out there. And over time, this vibrated back and forth, and it actually cracked the bracket, the actual bracket that attaches to the toolbox or the toolbox carrier here, and it made it unusable. I had to take it off, and I got lucky to see that in time, because if this had fallen off and fallen down there while I was brush hogging, I would have lost my toolbox. I would have probably damaged the blades on the brush hog. I would have lost all my tools. It just would have been a hot mess. So luckily I found the crack in time and I took it off. So what I did to repair it, well, let me bring you in closer so you can see. But what I did is this part right here is what cracked. So I took it to my welder and he put a piece of, it's not 1/4 inch, it's probably 1/8 inch metal right here, and welded it to the original bracket. He did a rough grind on it. I took it home and I ground it down and I smoothed it out. I used just a regular grinder like I use on my brush hog blades. And then I switched to more of a sanding type of disc type of grinder, and I made all these edges smooth. So then after I got it smooth in the way I wanted it to look and got the welds cleaned up, I wiped it down with some paint thinner to get all the residue off of there. And then I primed it with Rust-Oleum Rusty Metal Primer. And if you've never used that, that is a great product. I use it all the time. Sometimes I don't even top coat after that primer because it's such a good primer. Once you clean off the old rust that's there, it stops the rust, it seals, and it provides a good base for a top coat. So once I got it primed, I let it dry for a day, and then I got some Kubota, actual Kubota paint from the dealer. I had a couple of half cans or so, and it's the exact Kubota orange. It should match exactly if my tractor wasn't faded a little bit. And I put several coats of paint, of Kubota paint on here. And the way I do that is I just spray a light coat on, and then I let it dry for a day, and then I take a real fine grit of sandpaper and sand it all down, get off any, say, blemishes or anything that might have been in the air that stuck to the paint. And then I put another coat on, and then I do that again. I do that several times, so I get a nice good coating on here. And that's what I've got here. I've got 3 coats of Kubota orange on here. I got this thing temp mounted, and I think it's gonna work out really good. I did cut a rubber inner tube. I had an old wheelbarrow inner tube that I kept. So I did put a piece of rubber here where the orange bracket hits the gray. And the reason I did that is if I ever take this toolbox off, I don't want a bunch of orange on my Kubota gray here. So I put this rubber here, and also that should help it from turning too much, because you really got to clamp down on this, and that's metal to metal, and I feel like rubber will give it a better grip. So once I tighten all this down, this will ride up a little bit higher, like I have it held up here, and it'll be back in the perfect place where I want the toolbox. So this is a real easy install. It's just 4 bolts here, and you just tighten these down. And what I want to make sure is that there's clearance here so it doesn't hit my fender, and then clearance here. So the place that broke was right here, and this was flimsy back and forth. And then now you can see with this being double plated, it's not flimsy anymore. And it looks like that little piece of rubber inner tube is working out real good. Okay, it's all tightened down. And you can see it flexes a little this way, but it's not because of where it flexed before. It's just because that rubber's in there a little bit, but that is not going anywhere. That's way more durable or way more rigid than it was before. So we're gonna put the toolbox in there and show you the finished look. So the toolbox sits right in here. I actually forget which way I had it. I think I had it that way so that when I opened it, I'd have easy access to my tools. And this is what I really like about this configuration is most of the time when you're hooking up your 3-point hitch, you're right here. You need some snap pins. You need an adjustable wrench to do the turnbuckles. And you just open this waterproof lid up and your tools are right here. I cannot recommend that you buy this from BXpanded unless you're a welder or you have a friend that welds and you go ahead and double the thickness there. So I would say if you're gonna get a BXpanded one, to strengthen it before you use it, or to find one that sits in this location, because to me, this is the perfect location for a toolbox. So I think we're all set here. I don't put a strap over top of here because this toolbox is heavy enough, it's not gonna come out, but it does have a place for you to strap it down. And I'm gonna give you one more look at the back of the seat to show you that there's still clearance here. All right, I'm sitting in the seat as if I was driving the tractor. I'm actually leaning back. And you can see that the top of the seat hits the toolbox a little bit, but it doesn't affect you when you're driving. Like I've never felt that when I've been driving. Now I'm 6 foot tall, about 200 pounds. So if you're maybe a more robust guy and you have to have this back a little further, then this may be an issue for you. Or if maybe you cause the seat to come down a little bit more for whatever reason, then maybe this might interfere. But for me, this is perfect. This gives me plenty of leg room to operate the tractor, keeps this from hitting the back, and I actually could come back a little more, and it's just a perfect configuration for me. All right, well that does it for that install of that toolbox or that repair of that toolbox. And I just wanted to get that video out there because the other video has been fairly popular. Last time I checked, maybe like 3,000 views. And I don't want a bunch of folks thinking that Piney Grove is recommending something that they haven't tested. I did say at the end of that video that I really like the location of this toolbox, but only time would tell if it would be the perfect toolbox. And now I'll have to say, it's still the perfect location and it's still a great idea. It just needs to be stronger. So like I mentioned already, double the thickness of that bracket or find one that's a little thicker that might suit your needs. But that's gonna do it for today's video. We sure appreciate you watching. If you would, click that like button down below. That'll really help out our channel. And remember, life's short, tractor hard, but not too hard. You might break your tractor toolbox bracket.